Hi, welcome to another Evolutionary Astrology Zoom meeting. My name is Bradley Naragon, and today's topic is stereotypes of the sun signs and the planetary nodes. I wanted to start and say I dedicate this to Linda Johnson, who has moved on, bless her soul, and she's been encouraging me for many years to get back to some of this material. So dedicate this to you, Linda. So this is going to be a lot. And if you're listening later and you're able to pause, you might want to do that sometimes. And yeah, let's get started. So arguably, the first thing we learn about astrology are the sign archetypes as expressed through the sun, which is commonly called sun sign astrology. Maybe not everybody, but most people, right? And one thing that I find interesting is that there's actually symbols for the meaning of all 360 degrees. Sabian symbols were the first one that was really more popular, but there's many out there, lots of different versions. Also, there's this thing called the birthday book. I find that really fascinating and kind of amazing and crazy. It's like, how do they get all that information about your birthday, right? When I first learned about planetary nodes, I was taught to use geocentric planetary nodes as part of the evolutionary astrology paradigm and approach taught by Jeffrey Wolf Green. I immediately looked for a pattern in my attempt to understand their positions. No one told me this right out of the gates, but I did learn that there was a pattern that repeats annually, a pattern that revealed everyone with the same birthday has the same planetary nodes. Once you dive into this annual pattern through the lens of the sun signs, things get pretty interesting fast. Suddenly, I was having all new thoughts, perspectives, insights into these stereotypical sun sign behaviors. Seeing the background layers revealed more than I imagined. And then I realized these unique planetary node configurations that repeat each year on the same day would indeed be different if we went far enough back or forward in time. The planetary nodes more or less behave like fixed stars in the sense that we don't really see them move. Each time the Earth is at the same spot in its orbit, the planetary nodes are seen in the same spot. However, they do indeed move very slowly. And when you look at the heliocentric planetary nodes, you can see this rate of speed. It takes centuries, even a couple millennia, for a planetary node to traverse a sign. Maybe you already understood the basic mechanics of the nodes, just needed to make sure that we're starting on the same page there. And speaking of the basics, before we dive into this, let's say you're listening and thinking, but I have no idea how to interpret a planetary node. No need to worry. Here's the only tool you'll really need, in my opinion. Remember the concept of the lunar nodes. From the south node to the natal moon to the north node, we have a trinity of past, present, and future, a 360 view, if you will, of our evolving egocentric identity. The same is true for all the planet archetypes, except the sun, which is a star, not a planet, and it has no nodes. Venus has a south node. This correlates to past relationship dynamics and needs. Venus has a natal position, past and present relationship needs, and Venus has a north node. This correlates to the direction to evolve in relationship to self and others. So when you look at the south node of Venus in a chart, first, look at the house that it is in, then consider the sign. If you follow this general approach to the nodes, you should begin to unravel their meaning in a chart, even by starting with questions relevant to their position. If you need to, of course, you need to, of course, know how to interpret the planets by house and sign. And keep in mind what's highlighting one planet over another in a chart. What's emphasized, what's strongly placed, what's unexpected, what's the ruler of the lunar nodes, the ascendant. All of these factors may draw your attention to focus on particularly highlighted planets and their nodes. Because the outer planet nodes don't move so much as the inner planet nodes, today we are going to be focusing on the annual movement of Mercury, Venus, and Mars's nodes. This annual movement in relation to the sun signs. This is actually part one in a series. There's just too much material here to digest and throw into one meeting for the topic. And I do apologize. I am lacking visual support at this time for the material. And I know that might make it a little challenging for some of you. So some of it will be lost, some of it will sink in, and some of those seeds, hopefully you go back to. In the first part, we're starting with the inner planet nodes just for the signs Aries through Virgo today. The second part, we're going to do the inner planet nodes for the sun signs Libra through Pisces. When I saw for the first time that almost all Aquarius suns have a south node of Venus in Capricorn, I was blown away. Literally stopped in my tracks. I really had to take pause and rethink what that meant of my understanding of Aquarians. There was this breakthrough conceptual understanding, a perception shift in how I thought about Aquarians, myself being one of them, as cold and detached. I had attributed this stereotypical behavior to the sun in Aquarius. However, in that moment, I realized this behavioral phenomena is also connected to this Venus South Node in Capricorn. While Aquarians can come off as cold and detached, this Venus in Capricorn South Node also suggests Aquarians simply need time to warm up and open up. That's a Venus in Cap trait. So without further ado, we're going to start this journey with Aries. Of course, we're starting with Aries. Aries begins with the south node of Mercury in Pisces. Obviously, that's March 20th. Up until about April 9th or 10th, we have the last third of Aries suns have a south node of Mercury in Aries. So think of someone you know who's in Aries and they're born from March 20th to April 9th. If you have someone, now consider that this person has the south node of Mercury in Pisces. This is, of course, a very nonlinear, abstract placement for Mercury, even mute at times, right? Mind swims in the collective ocean of thought. Consider how much quicker the latter Aries would come to decision and action. The south node of Mercury in Pisces type Aries are coming from a very different place in regards to the nature of their mind, thoughts, and communication. Okay, here's a crazy one. Most Aries suns have the north node of Mercury in Aries. Aries suns born from March 20th to April 14th, that's almost all of them, they'd have a north node of Mercury in Aries. So next time we get all critical of Aries that are in our lives about them needing to jump into the next thing, we could also ask ourselves if they have a north node of Mercury in Aries or Taurus, because just maybe they're not being an asshole, but they're doing their north node, right? Consider for a moment that Aries suns that are going from a south node of Mercury in Pisces towards a north node of Mercury in Aries. Out of the stillness of the mind, new thoughts and ideas emerge. They are not called to stay swimming in the ocean of collective thoughts, rather to blaze ahead with what is emerging in consciousness. Now we have a sliver of Aries suns, April 10th to the 14th. They have both the south node and the north node of Mercury in Aries. This is very interesting. Because the south node is early and the north node is late in Aries, maybe they fall in different houses. You can look that up. Maybe one's conjunct a planet. Aries suns from the beginning to April 3rd, have a south node of Venus in Aquarius. Then all of the rest of Aries suns have a south node of Venus in Pisces. So you've got your weird Aries suns, and then you've got your more romantic caliber Aries suns. But here's where it gets interesting. All Aries suns have a north node of Venus in Taurus. And I think here is where we may break down a little bit of our Aries stereotype, because this north node of Venus in Taurus is calling for Aries suns to do more Taurus in relationship. What am I saying by that? Basically, our fellow Aries suns are evolving in relationship by learning self-reliance, self-sufficiency, to source and value themselves, to focus on the senses, the body, the root of their being. The cultivation of their relationship with themselves is crucial to their evolution. Aries has this stereotype of being so independent, and not that is a bad thing at all. In fact, it's of course a natural need for the Aries energy. But what I'm getting at is have we considered, when we observe and classify the stereotypical Aries independence, which may sometimes give a rub the wrong way for us, have we considered that them being not being inclusive and going solo, that perhaps this is part of their own evolution, Venus node in Taurus? We were the one with the problem because we want them to be different than who they are, right? I'm not going to really have time to go into all of this in great depth. As mentioned, we're introducing some of these perspectives here. We're just scratching the surface indeed, but we're stirring up some interest, and I hope the realization of the value of including planetary nodes. So real brief, Aries suns, they all have a south node of Mars in Sagittarius, and the north node, except for just the start on March 20th, 21st in Aries, they all have a north node of Mars in Taurus. Probably thinking, geez, maybe I should have said that to begin with. This is true. All Aries suns have a north node of Venus and Mars in Taurus. So yeah, slow the F down. But this is also about learning survival, self-sufficiency, self-reliance, self-resourcing, and self-worth. When we think of Aries suns through this lens, the stereotypical rush into something and blunder it all up has a new meaning, because we now know the planetary nodes are calling of Taurus lessons. To learn to be the tortoise. Yes, be amped and be excited for the journey. We've got that North Node Mercury Aries, right? And of course, the famous Aries excitement is great. And there's this call to slow and steady that will ultimately win you the race. Aries are not cosmically called to, blaze out bright, burn out fast. No need to go supernova. Quite the opposite. Moving on to Taurus suns. I always think of Taurus as very cool, calm, and collected from birth. That's just my own thing. I don't know. But what's the deal with Taurus here? So in early Taurus suns, they have a south node of Mercury in Aries, a north node of Mercury in Taurus. Then around April 28th, 29th, both the nodes of Mercury are in Taurus for the rest of Taurus season. So born stubborn and stay stubborn. And actually, I've looked into this quite a bit. And once I've lectured on this, and I've also posted on this on the School Evolutionary Astrology message board regarding this phenomena, Taurus suns end up having this conjunction of the nodes of Mercury. While these nodes are geocentric in the evolutionary astrology paradigm, we're using heliocentric nodes to determine the south node and north node location. And I say this because I know some astrologers believe the nodes of Mercury and Venus may actually be reverse of how we're using them. based on the movement of the planets with their retrograde loops. So I just wanted to say that I'm aware of this, and still in my own evolutionary astrology experience, I believe that what we use in evolutionary astrology works for evolutionary astrology, and that is the point of what we're doing. And that's a much longer discussion that I can't really get into today. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, that's totally fine. So, sadly, breaking down the meaning of this conjunction of the nodes of Mercury and Taurus, for the Taurus suns, is not something I have total scope and time to go into today. I will say that the north node of Mercury is in what we call the superior conjunction, and then the south node of Mercury is in the inferior conjunction. Something to keep in mind, we have two planets between us and the sun, right? Mercury and Venus. In the evolutionary astrology paradigm, Mercury and Venus are the only two that have a dual sign rulership. One being the outer expression and one being the inner expression of the archetype. The inferior position on the planets between Earth and the sun, this correlates to that yin retrograde, the inner expression of the archetype. And then in the superior conjunction position, when we're lined up, but it's way on the far side of the sun, right? This correlates to that yang, direct, outward expression of the archetype. So when we consider that with these Taurus Mercury nodes, in a nutshell, the Taurus suns have more kept their thoughts to themselves in the past, and they're learning to speak and share their own ideas, not just think about them from inside their own minds. And that's with the north node in the superior conjunction position. It's kind of a lot. About half Taurus suns have a south node of Venus in Pisces, and the later half have a south node of Venus in Aries. And approximately 2/3 of Taurus suns have a north node of Venus in Taurus. The last third of Taurus suns have a north node of Venus in Gemini. Initial thoughts on this, I do think it's very interesting to consider Taurus suns with a north node Venus in Taurus versus Gemini. In light of the Mercury nodes, the last third of Taurus suns end up with a dual emphasis on evolving new ways to communicate. Early Taurus suns would then be naturally more internalized, while the latter Taurus suns are going to feel more of a calling to project themselves outward into the environment, curious to experience the world around them through the senses in a new way. Latter Taurus suns definitely have a path towards externalization, with these early Taurus folk still having planetary nodes speak to the internalization process as part of their evolution. Approximately on May 4th, the south node of Mars goes from Sagittarius back into Scorpio. Now, all Tauruses have the north node of Mars in Taurus. And on May 10th, Taurus suns in particular have a very distinct nodes of Mars opposition, with the sun conjunct the north node of Mars in Taurus, opposing this intense south node of Mars in Scorpio. So that day on May 10th, south node of Mars, Scorpio, sun conjunct north node of Mars in Taurus. And then we have the latter Taurus suns, then as we can see, they're needing to learn a lesson of self-effort, right? Taurus lesson to manifest their life purpose, that when that north node of Mars and Taurus is anywhere near that sun conjunction. And again, that process is fueled by more externalizing themselves into the world, developing the ability to communicate their needs. So that statement more is a synthesis of all of these nodes together. And now we come to Gemini. As for Mercury's nodes, the south node is in Gemini, or Cancer by the 3rd or 4th of June. The north node of Mercury, it's in Taurus at the start of Gemini until about May 24th or 25th. So we have a majority of Gemini suns with their north node of Mercury in Gemini. And for some reason, I find that very amusing. Again, like in Taurus time, it was when the south node of Mercury was moving very quickly and it passed between the Earth and the Sun. So in Gemini season, when we do have both of the nodes of Mercury in Gemini, we can also keep in mind that one would be coming from a more introspective analytical curiosity. Now they're called to share their thoughts, ideas, messages, to externalize the consciousness by projecting themselves into the physical environment and discover life. I realize that some people find this Gemini quality a bit too much, but keep in mind they are needing to do this as part of their evolution. Those Gemini suns with a south node of Mercury in Cancer and a north node in Gemini have an interesting interplay between the past and evolving mental landscape. So an unresolved south node here could mean communication insecurities. If there were, for example, a natal planet conjunct the south node of Mercury, we may see this pattern then tied to that planetary archetype and meaning by house and sign. When it comes to Gemini and the south node of Venus, things really get interesting. This is the fastest the south node of Venus moves at any time during the year when the sun is in Gemini. This is due to the fact that the south node of Venus is in that inferior conjunction position. So Gemini season kicks off with the south node of Venus in late Aries. It goes all the way through Taurus, it goes all the way through Gemini, and it goes all the way to the end of Cancer as we reach the summer solstice or winter solstice for those in the southern hemisphere. I would say this does add a flair to Geminis for being very different from each other in many ways. Where they're coming from in regards to this relationship with their self and their past relationship needs, how they relate with others is not so similar, actually. So, in fact, Gemini sun with a south node of Venus in Aries would be a very different breed than Gemini sun with south node Venus in Cancer. You can't just judge Gemini by their sun sign. Not that we would ever do that. On the flip side of that, all Gemini suns have a north node of Venus in Gemini. Let's say that again. All Gemini suns, north node of Venus is in Gemini. And closer to the end of Gemini season, there is a conjunction that's getting close between the north nodes of Mercury and Venus in Gemini. That nodal conjunction doesn't happen until Cancer season. But simply put, they're supposed to be that gregarious. It's really their purpose to be that inquisitive. And those Gemini suns born June 7th until the end happen to have a north node of Mars also in Gemini. So wow, we're talking, that's the north node of Mercury, Venus, and Mars, all in Gemini. That, to me, that kind of brought to mind that saying, you do you and I'll do me. So I was like, Gemini suns, they're just doing them, you know. That's a whole other world. Except for the first day of Gemini, when that south node of Mars is in Scorpio. The rest of the Gemini suns actually have a south node of Mars in Libra. So instead of seeking out old companionship, south node of Mars in Libra, they're learning to simply follow the trail of breadcrumbs, whenever and whatever the circumstances. North node Mars Gemini. The pursuit of information knows no limits. As a metal, Mercury is liquid at room temperature. So these Gemini suns need for their evolution to be ever in motion. And I know it's hard for y'all Pisces and Capricorn Scorpios to keep up with that. But at least you can see how we could potentially be more supportive of Gemini suns by understanding this about them. So moving on into Cancer suns. Interesting thing about Cancers is that for the most part, they have Leo south nodes of Mercury and Venus. All Cancer suns have the south node of Mars in Libra. In fact, in Cancer, we see the south node of Mars reach its earliest degree in the zodiac. So the south node of Mars basically swings between Libra, Scorpio, Sag, and back and forth in the year. That's what the south node of Mars does for the geocentric position, right? And so it goes all the way back to 9 degrees Libra. It stops its retrograde movement when the sun's in Cancer. And around the end of, this is right around the end of June, where it stations at about 9 degrees Libra. And then it starts going forward through the zodiac, back through Libra, back through Scorpio, into Sag. And it finally reaches 30 degrees Sag on the spring equinox. So that's a very long journey there. And from the 22nd of May till September 22nd, the south node of Mars is in Libra. So we're really talking like all our Gemini suns, our Cancers, our Leos and Virgos, they all have a south node of Mars in Libra. It's pretty interesting. But it is in Cancer that this node stations, with the south node of Mars in Libra at the 9th degree. So, obviously Libra sextiles Leo, it trines Gemini, and in Cancer, we have the square off. So this gives us a little bit of a background layer to Cancer suns, and it's not like a huge piece of the puzzle, but I think it is a significant piece to think about, and it might shed some light on some things, and it might emphasize or counterbalance some other dynamics in the chart or psyche. And for starters, it highlights this reality of Cancers having an impulse for relationship, for companionship, for other. And how does that older desire for relationship challenge current life purpose, sun, to be secure from within themselves as they come out of their shells and express and live their life? So there's a little tension there. And keeping that in mind about Cancer suns, we're going to circle back to this south node of Mercury in Leo for most Cancer suns. Cancer season does kick off with the south node of Mercury in Cancer, but 6 days later, it's in the sign of Leo, and it remains in Leo like well into the Leo season. So yeah, a majority of Cancer suns have this south node Mercury in Leo. And I feel that this reflects Cancer suns having a special sense about the nature of their own ideas, words, thoughts, communication. It's going to also correlate to Cancers being so good at impressions and impersonating. So Cancers have gotten a critical negative stereotype about being clingy and over emotional and sensitive, as if all these things were bad. So keep in mind they have a south node Mars Libra, and now we know they have a south node Mercury in Leo, most likely. Are they being over dramatic about the situation? Perhaps they're just dramatic communicators where they come from. I would say that they would have a natural sense of purpose and pride in saying their piece. And when that pride is hurt, it hurts, The first part of Cancer, the north node of Mercury is in Gemini, and then a little more than halfway through, the north node of Mercury goes into Cancer. And I realize this is probably more information than most people can digest at this point. So if you're listening later, maybe pause and come back or keep going. They'll sink in. So Cancer suns in the nodes of Mercury, we've got 3 combos basically. First, you've got your Cancers who have a south node Mercury in Cancer and a north node in Gemini. Then from June 27th to July 3rd, we have a little group here that have south node of Mercury in Leo, and the north node of Mercury in Gemini. So you can use a website called true-node.com, or maybe you have another way to find the precise location of these nodes, and I'll post that link on my Instagram, Naragon Astrology. And there's also a link for this on the reference materials on the website, School of Evolutionary Astrology message board. So lastly, we have this group of Cancer suns with the south node of Mercury in Leo and the north node in Cancer. So thanks to Gemini, I don't have that much time to talk about Cancers. Just kidding. I'll say that this combo, having a south node of Mercury in Leo, heading towards a north node of Mercury in Cancer, there could be a past quality of the mind where Leo is so fully present, especially if you have a south node Venus in Leo too here. There is now need to cultivate more Cancerian empathy, concern, and support for others. Cancers from July 9th to the end do have a south node of Venus in Virgo. So when you consider this coupled with that south node of Mars in Libra, there's definitely a bent for these Cancers towards helping others and being in relationship. And I think this sheds a little bit of light on the stereotype of the nurturing Cancer. Yes, of course, Cancer is a nurturing archetype, but this also shows that these Cancer suns have this emphasized in other ways and where they're coming from. So meanwhile, the north node of Venus is in Cancer for late Cancer suns. And so again, for late Cancer suns, we have that question of how do you become secure within yourself when your past orientation is Virgo and Libra, helping others, desiring relationship. South node of Venus in Virgo represents a relationship with the self in the past that is, where we saw all the different kinds of self-improvement we need. It represents coming from a place of evolving through relationship crisis. In light of this knowledge, we ask, how do these Cancer sun folks reach a point to become secure within themselves? And I'll leave that there. One thing about Leo suns that I find really interesting is that they all have one or two inner planet south nodes in Virgo, right? From the start till August 8th, Leos have the south node of their Venus in Virgo. From July 28th to August 8th, we have both the south nodes of Mercury and Venus in Virgo. And then after August 8th, the rest have the south node of Mercury in Virgo. So what I realized by seeing this is that Leo suns alone are naturally more humble than having other Leo placements. For example, you've got Pluto or Mars in Leo, a Leo ascendant or moon, even a fifth house Pluto placement could express more of the negative stereotypical Leo, I'm the center of the universe and I'm awesome, bow down, worship me. Right? Leo sun is going to be a bit more toned down, Leo need for attention. So having a south node of Venus and Virgo Leo suns, they're already coming from a place of self-humility, self-analysis, and this value of helping others potentially, right? They're also coming from a place of having inner crisis about how they relate to themselves and others. And they're going to, whatever it is, they're going to have the classic, the whole package of Venus and Virgo dynamics where they're coming from. And I would say that does reveal that Leo suns are more likely to be able to handle some critique and feedback than like a highly emphasized Leo fifth house configuration. That's pretty interesting. I mean, compare giving critical feedback to a Leo sun versus a Leo moon sometime. And if you do, just be gentle. So what else about Leo suns do the nodes have to say? It says that they love sunflowers and their hair. Just kidding. Uh, so this is a trip and somewhat interesting to chew on. Most Leo suns have a north node of Mercury and Venus in Cancer. And to me, from an evolutionary astrology point of view on this, has some very intriguing information about Leo suns. Why were you born with a Leo sun? There's this clear soul need to manifest a special purpose in life, soul's purpose to express oneself, manifest through will. We consider this with the north nodes in Cancer for Mercury and Venus, more or less coming from a south nodes in Virgo. So we're painting a picture of some psychological dynamics for the Leo sun experience. There's going to be a need for Leo suns to be more secure within themselves about what they share and say. And this raises the question of why. Do the Virgo south nodes represent self-doubt, self-belittlement, putting others ahead of oneself? Are there signs that the Leo sun needs recognition and encouragement from others? Again, the south node of Mars is in Libra. What does it say about Leo sun individuals? You know, are they evolving this inner sense of emotional security from around their forms of creation and self-expression? It's a really good question for Leo suns. Of course, these node placements do not trump the natal planets and what they speak to. They're very important background layers, and when you get into this, you'll realize that it's filling in a lot of the gaps. These are dynamics akin to the sun sign, and the individuals are going to have some awareness that these are part of their psychological makeup. And again, keep in mind with evolutionary astrology, we're always going to look at house first for these placements. While this is fun to consider the sun signs in a new light, when you dive into the chart, first ask, what house does the south node or north node fall into? You may be surprised how many times a natal planet is conjunct a planetary node. I see that all the time. Always fascinating. Even the same planet sometimes. So for example, I had a couple recent readings. One person had their natal Venus conjunct the north node of their Venus. And another had their natal Mercury conjunct the south node of their Mercury. If I see a chart and natal Mercury is conjunct the south node of Mercury, I'm going to want to understand by house sign aspect what this is representing. What qualities of the mind are they called to evolve relative to the north node of that Mercury by house and sign? It's immediately fascinating and very significant considering how we may not have stumbled upon this without using planetary nodes. For example, if the lunar nodes were Gemini, Sag, or Pisces, Virgo, then you know that Mercury is the ruler of one of the lunar nodes. Let's say, for example, Mercury ruled the north node, but it's conjunct the south node of Mercury. Now, we can see that there's a facilitation of the evolutionary purpose, Mercury ruling the north node, by accessing previously developed mental abilities that Mercury conjunct its south node. What qualities of the mind and communication had that person evolved in the past, and how are these facilitating their evolution? So, if anything, you get loads of great questions to ask about when you use planetary nodes. It leads you down these rabbit holes into the psyche. Back to Leo suns, around August 9th or 10th, and after, all Leos have a south node of Venus in Libra, and the north node of Mercury is in Leo. So first, consider that you're coming from a south node of Mercury in Virgo and evolving towards a north node of Mercury in Leo. This is interesting because it's backwards in regards to the sign flow, the evolutionary journey around the zodiac. It's like you've already gotten into a lot of self-analysis and reflection, and now there's this need to develop confidence, courage, and pride in your voice and message. What you have to say is important. When you see the qualities of mind coming from Virgo and needing to evolve more Leo, it may be helpful to encourage the person to speak, right, share their thoughts. whatever forms this relates to by house and aspect. What are they excited to talk about? Now, Leo suns born around August 9th until the end of Leo have the south node of Venus in Libra, the north node of Venus in Cancer. So here, again, there's more emphasis on having sought out the company of others. Perhaps they've taken in others' values as their own in the past. Perhaps they've gone to extremes in relationships. A Leo sun going to extremes in relationships? I haven't heard of that. Regardless, they are needing to develop this inner security of being with their self. And for the Leo sun to be secure from within without wanting someone else to mirror back, yes, good job, awesome, to be secure without needing another. This is actually a Leo sun lesson. And when it comes to Mars, as I said, all Leo suns have a south node of Mars in Libra, north node of Mars in Gemini. As you may realize, this in combination with all that we've been talking about even adds more weight to Leo's past needs for others. A non-evolving Leo may be very Libran and need to be needed, need that attention, immature Leo expression. An evolving Leo sun would be cultivating an emotional security without it coming from others. And that north node of Mars in Gemini, relative to the south node of Mercury in Virgo, Leo suns are called for a more outward exploration of the world versus staying in their head, so to speak. It's interesting because when I now think of Leo suns as potentially having the south nodes of Venus and Mars in Libra, those born April or August 9th to the end, this Leo need to be seen takes on a whole new meaning and perspective. And again, this is one layer, and in the future, I'm going to be going into some of these deeper layers where we include the outer planet nodes, outer planet positions, generational outer planet situations here. In evolutionary astrology, we talk about Libra as a sign of extremes. Consider what house these later Leo suns have these Libra south nodes in. How have they gone to extremes in these areas of their life? Leo being extreme, is it related to these Libra south nodes? So this gives us these tools to unpack these sun sign stereotypes. And finally, we're going to take a little exploration of Virgo suns today. And after this, if anyone has some conversation or questions, we're going to open it up. So Virgo kicks off with Mercury's south node in Virgo and the north node in Leo. Venus still has its south node in Libra, and her north node has just gone into Leo. And then Mars has this south node in Libra, and its north node is in Gemini at the start. So from the beginning of Virgo until September 10th, this north node of Mercury is in Leo, which means that the first 2/3 of Virgos have north nodes of Mercury and Venus in Leo. If a Virgo sun has a life purpose of service and helping others, then the planetary nodes of Virgo say that these Virgo suns are learning to fully voice their voice, to share with confidence and a healthy self-pride, that this purpose is valuable and worth the will, focus, and effort to creatively live it. With the south node of Mars in Libra, the north node in Gemini, until September 4th, the early half Virgo suns are also learning to shift this desire nature. Again, instead of needing to connect and get the mirrored back support, south node Mars Libra, their evolution lies in projecting themselves into the unfolding creative process itself. North node Mars Gemini with north node Mercury Leo. The houses the Gemini north node of Mars and the Leo north nodes of Mercury and Venus occupy are going to give a lot of additional details to this evolutionary phenomena. With the north node of Mars going into Cancer about September 5th, and the north node of Mercury entering Virgo September 11th. Later Virgo suns have a bit more internalized, softer yin aspect to their personal evolution. From Libra to Cancer on the Mars nodes, the Virgo suns are really needing to learn courage from within instead of the support and approval from outside oneself. And when the north node of Mercury goes into Virgo, there is clearly a lessened emphasis on this creative expression of the voice, message, and thoughts. And instead, Virgo suns September 5th until the end of the Virgo season are evolving the mind's ability to self-analyze and discern. Now, what's really interesting is that later Virgo suns actually have south node of Venus and Mars in a conjunction in Libra. And on top of this, the south node of Mercury has also gone into Libra. That is to say that all three personal planet south nodes are now in Libra. Have you ever thought of Virgo suns as being a bit Libran in behavior and character? Perhaps you don't really know a late Virgo sun until you've seen how their extreme side has presented itself. So consider that north node of Mercury in light of this, north node of Mercury in Virgo. What faculties of discernment help them bring into balance their past actions? What does it mean to be secure from within about your actions and decisions when you're so used to social support and approval? North node Mars Cancer is part of this call, right? And finally, in light of these three personal planet south nodes in Libra, a north node of Venus in Leo really speaks to the return to the heart, your heart, right? I think we know when the relationship strings of our life are pulling at our heart in so many aspects of our life and psyche. And so then there becomes this need to really feel into one's own heart. It's a very important thing to do. And it's emphasized for Virgo suns who have this placement. Am I doing it for others, or in my heart, I know this is the right thing for me to do? So we've got about 10 minutes left here or so. I know that was a lot. If anybody has any comments or questions, please go for it.
Well, I'll start. I mean, wow. That just, you just said so much that this Virgo sun is going to have to go back and go over this a number of times for it all to sink in. But wow, this is really incredible. This is so, it opens up such new nuances and ways of just incredible. I mean, speechless. Does anybody else have any questions or comments for Bradley?
Yeah, what's your beef against Aries, huh, Bradley? I'm an Aries. Yeah.
I love Aries. I have an Aries south node. I'm always getting myself into trouble. You know, I think that, you know, I mean, I didn't emphasize enough that Aries is about learning through trial and error. So either way, it's like that's part of your process and jumping into things. I just found it really fascinating that there's like these north nodes in Taurus for Aries. So for the Aries that seem like isolating, it's like, well, they're probably just doing their Taurus north nodes. They really need to internalize and ground, and they need more time with themselves. Like that's part of your evolution. And I hadn't really considered that, you know, in light of, I think if somebody gets in a relationship with an Aries and they're not getting enough time in that relationship from the person, if they don't understand that psychological dynamic and evolutionary need for the Aries sun. So for me, that just gave me this whole perspective of like, oh, wow, actually, you know, it would be best to really honor that, you know.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. I certainly have that issue. Needing that grounding time. I think most of my life I didn't feel so grounded. So that it's there, I think I need to look into ways on how to do that, and because it's healthy for me and for everybody else that's in relationship with me, whether it's my husband or my kids, whoever's surrounding. So thank you for that insight.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm an early Virgo and I totally could relate to everything you said.
Have you looked at your planetary nodes by house and got into that in your chart?
Not too much, just my moon nodes. I haven't gotten too much into my planetary nodes.
Yeah, it's
So,
interesting. I have, you know, and it's like, wow, one's conjunct this planet, or, you know, it just gives like a whole nother thing to think about with your chart that it's pretty fun.
yeah. And Mercury is a very strong player in my chart because I have Gemini South Node and Gemini Moon. So
Mm-hmm. Thanks for sharing.
opened up whole new dimensions.
Do you know how to access the planetary nodes if you want to? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you use, I'm new to the nodes. So is the program, I'm noticing most people have Solar Fire. Is that the program that most people use?
It's the one that I've heard of that uses it, or that, you know, has it as a function. I
Okay.
don't have Solar Fire, and so one of the things I did was I mapped them out using the true-node.com website, and that will give you, like, you know, the precise location of any nodes that you want to look at. And
Oh,
then
good. I'm going to write that down.
I mapped them annually, so each month has all of its days, and there's a list of them all, and that's a downloadable free spreadsheet that's on the School of Evolutionary Astrology message board reference materials.
Awesome.
And then I also have a pamphlet that I sell that is just like a hard copy of that same thing. And honestly, that's basically what I use. Is I just have my pamphlet with me and I flip open. And if it's like a question of it's right on the cusp, then I might go to the website and verify its position. But it's usually within a degree, and I get the information I usually need from the pamphlet. So
Okay.
the pamphlet or that spreadsheet.
Yeah. So it's true-node.com.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. There's a link on the message board. If you had any issues accessing it, you could message me too or something, and I could help you, or even just send you the link I use. I've gone once or twice, and I don't know what link I was on, but it wasn't working for me. And then anyway, I have mine bookmarked, and
We can add it to the post as well. There is
Great.
a little bit, there's something after, I think it's like EPH or so, there's something that you have to do after it, because if you do true-node.com, you end up in a weird place that you can't find your way out of.
Thank
So
you.
what
Okay.
I'll post a link to it. Also, Sirius Astrology has the planetary nodes that
Thank you.
you can include.
Cool. Thank you.
Sirius Astrology. Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. Every day something new.
Always.
Right? It's never ending. My gosh.
Yup.
I've been looking at my freaking chart since 2016, and look, he just like opened up something that's just like, what the heck? I thought I knew it by now.
This is a huge one too. To me,
Yes.
it's
Yes.
incredible.
I'm
And the
trying to
fact
keep it.
that everybody born on the same day has the same nodal position. That's what is really incredible. I mean, I had
Yeah.
noticed, it kind of was sinking in, but you know, for you to actually say those words, it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, you could.
That is amazing.
it seems like a lot at first, but you can start memorizing these little snippets, and
Mhm.
then you can be like, oh wait, you have, you know,
And it has nothing to do with the year. It has to do with the day. Right?
like, just they're because they're like fixed points, so like,
Right.
and the outer ones don't, they just kind of like, and then Mars, because it's closer, does this. It does a 3-sign swing, and then because Mercury and Venus are inside our orbit, those are the only two that go all the way through the zodiac.
Wow.
And so there's kind of this
Very
dance
cool.
of what do the inner planet, personal planet nodes do in relation to our chart, in relation to the outer planet nodes. And that's a layer that I didn't get into today at all, but sometimes you have these other nodal configurations with the outer planet nodes, and then are there other planets in the chart, etc. Right, so.
Well, this
And
helps a lot. Yeah.
you use geocentric or heliocentric?
I use geocentric.
Geocentric. Okay.
Yeah.
This helps a lot because I purchased the the DVDs that Deva sells,
Yeah, the 27.
and that is the 27 DVDs.
Yes.
And I purchased them months ago, and I'm like on 5, like DVD number 5, because when I listen to it, it just takes me for days. It's just like, I have to meditate on it and just discern it. And, it's not, it's like, 27, that it feels like it's going to take me years to really grasp all of what it's saying. But these classes like this, like these, really help to just, I don't know, hone it down a little bit, because it's just like, it's a lot of information. But, this at least is more specific to certain questions that I may have along the way, because this is like self-study. Those DVDs are self-study. So it's a lot. Yeah, so thank you.
Yeah, it gives an application to what you're studying.
Right.
Yeah.
And I have questions, and I'm not in the class with him to
Yeah.
ask the questions, I want to stop him right where he is and just ask a question, but you really can't do that. So, I sit there and I'm confused for a while, and then just these classes like this help just kind of pull the pieces together. So I didn't even know for the longest time that planets have their own nodes, and what that means in my life. So this is very, very helpful. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks. Yeah, I love those DVDs. Good stuff. Okay. Well, I guess should we wrap it up?
Sounds like a good idea. Thank you so much, Bradley. This was just mind-opening.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
I'll look to do the second half, part 2, get on the schedule for that. So
Awesome.
Great.
All right.
Thank you.
Take
Look
care.
forward to it.
Yes, me too. Have a good night, everyone.
here. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.